Everybody. Welcome this week. This is week 9. We're talking about chapter 12, ethical business and international leadership. For this week, chapter 12 in our book. Go ahead and start with our book chapters. I have a lot of PowerPoints that go with this week's chapters. But hold on a second. Let me make sure you can see it okay. All right, so this is our work for today, chapter 12. The strategy of international business. What actions can managers take to compete more effectively as an international business? How can firms increase products through international expansion? What international strategy should firms pursue? A firm strategy refers to actions that managers take to attain the goals in the firm. Profitability can be defined as the rate of return the firm makes invested capital. We have profit growth, percentage increase, the net profits over time. Expanding internationally can boost profitability and profit growth. We have strategy in the firm, deterrence of enterprise value, enterprise valuation, profitability, profit growth, reduce the cost, add value and raise prices, and sell more of existing markets, enter new markets. A value created by a firm is measured by the difference between the B, the price the firm can charge for the product and competitive pressures, and C, the cost of producing that product. The higher the value customers place on the firm's products, the higher the price the firm can charge for those products and greater profitability for the firm. We have the value of product to the average consumer. We have the price per unit, cost of the production per unit, customer surplus unit, profit per unit sold, and created per unit. What is the rate of return the firm makes on invested capital? Profit growth, profitability, net return, and value created. Profits can be increased by adding value to the product that customers are willing to pay for it. A differentiation strategy, lowering cost, a lower cost strategy. Michael Porter argues that the superior profitability goes to the firms to create superior value by lowering the cost structure of the business and by changing the product so the premium price can be charged. Michael Porter argues that firms need to choose either differentiation or low cost and configure international operations to support the choice. We have to maximize long run return on invested capital. Firms must pick a variable position, efficiency frontier, configure internal operations to support that position, have a right organization structure in place to execute a strategy. Strategic choice in the international hotel industry. A firm's operations can be thought of a value chain composed of a series of distinct value creation activities, including promotion, marketing, materials, and management, R&D, human resources, information systems, and firm infrastructure. Value creation activities can be categorized as primary activities, R&D, production, marketing, sales, consumer service, and support activities, and information systems, logistics, and human resources. This following is not example. Oh no. Sorry guys, that was me. I clicked on the wrong thing. I clicked on make smaller or something. I don't know what I did. So the rate of return on a firm is invested what? Do you think it's profit growth? Do you think it's profitability? Do you think it's net return or value created? Its profits are increased by adding value. You got it right. To a product that consumers are willing to pay more for it. A differentiation strategy, lowering costs, a low cost strategy. Michael Porter argues that superior profitability goes to firms that create superior value by lowering the cost of structure of the business and differentiating the product so premium price can be charged. Michael Porter argues that firms need to choose either differentiation or low cost and then configure international operations and support the choice. To maximize long-run return on invested capitals, firms must pick a valuable position of the efficiency frontier, configure international organizations, operations to support that position, have a right organization structure in place to execute the strategy. Strategic choice in international hotel, efficiency frontier, Four Seasons, Starwood, Marriott. Those are some competitors. Strategic choices in the area not valuable to the international hotel industry. A firm's operations can be thought in a value chain composed of a series of distinct value creation activities, including production, marketing, material management, R&D, human resources, information systems, and firm's infrastructure. Value creation activities can be categorized as primary activities, R&D, production, and marketing, sales, consumer services. We have R&D, production, marketing, sales, consumer service, and support activities, information system, logistics, and human resources. Which of the following is not an example of a primary activity? Logistics, marketing, sales, customer service, and production. Value chain, that's information systems, company infrastructure, logistics, human resource, R&D, production, marketing, and sales, customer service. International firms can expand the market for domestic product offerings by selling other products in international markets, realize location economies by dispersing individual value creation activities to locations around the globe where they can be performed more efficiently and effectively, realize greater cost economies from the experience effects by serving an expanded global market from a central location, thereby reducing the cost of value creation, earn a greater return by leveraging any valuable skills developed in foreign operations, transferring them to other entities of the firm's global network operations. Firms can increase the growth by selling goods and services developed at home internationally. The service of firms expanded internationally depends on the goods or service they sell and their core competencies. Those within the firm the competitors cannot easily match or imitate. Core competencies enable the firms produce the cost of value creation and or create perceived value in such a way premium pricing is possible. When the firm base each other's value creation activity that is location where economic, political, and cultural conditions, including relative factor costs, are conducive to the performance of the activity, and realize location economies that arise from performing a value creation activity, the optimal location of activity wherever the world they might be. By achieving location economies, firms can lower the cost of value creation and achieve a low-cost position. Differentiate product offering. Firms can take advantage of the location economies in different parts of the world, create a global value creation activities. Under the strategy, differing strategy stages of the value chain are dispersed, so the locations around the globe where perceived value is maximized and where the cost of value creation is minimized. In caveat, transportation costs, trade barriers, and political risks complicate the picture. So what's created is different stages of the value chain are dispersed to locations where value added is maximized or where cost of value is minimized. Do you think it's going to be experience effects, learning effects, economies of scale, or global web? Okay, experience effects. Good job. The experience curve refers to the systematic reductions in a production cost that have been observed in order over the life of a product. We have learning effects or cost savings that come from learning by doing. So when labor productivity increases, individuals learn the most efficient ways to perform particular tasks, and management learns how to manage a new operation more efficiently. Experience curve. Economies of scale refer to reductions in the unit cost achieved by producing a large volume of product. Sources of economies of scale include spreading fixed cost over large volume, utilizing production facilities more intensively, increasing bargaining power and suppliers. By moving down the experience curve, firms reduce the cost of creating value. To get down the experience curve quickly, firms can use a single plant to serve global markets. It's important for managers to recognize that valuable skills can be applied elsewhere in the firm that can arise anywhere within the firm's global network, not just corporate center. Establish an incentive system that encourages local employees to acquire new skills. Have a process for identifying when valuable new skills have been created for subsidy. Managers need to keep in mind the complex relationship between profitability and profit growth when making strategic decisions about pricing. In some cases, they may be worthwhile to price products low relative to the perceived value in order to gain market share. Cost pressures and pressures for local responsiveness. Firms that compete in the global marketplace typically face two types of competitive pressures: pressures to cost reductions, pressures to locally responsive. These pressures place conflicting demands on the firm. Pressures for cost reductions force the firm to lower unit costs, but pressure for local responsiveness require the firm to adapt its product to meet local demands on each market, a strategy that raises cost. We have pressures for cost reductions and local responsiveness. Pressures for cost reductions are greatest in industries producing commodity type products that fill universal needs that exist when tastes and preferences and customers in different nations are similar, if not identical, where price is the main competitive weapon. When major competitors are based in low-cost locations where there's persistent excess capacity, where customers are powerful and face low switching cost. Pressures for local responsiveness arise when differences in customer tastes and preferences. Strong pressures for local responsiveness emerge when customers' tastes and preferences differ significantly between countries. Differences in traditional practices and infrastructure. Pressures for local responsiveness emerge when there are differences in infrastructure and traditional practices between countries. There's pressures for local responsiveness. Differences in distribution channels. A firm's marketing strategy need to be responsive in the differences in distribution channels between countries. Host government demands. Economic and political demands imposed by host countries. Governments may necessitate a degree of local responsiveness. Which of the following is not a pressure for local responsiveness? Excess capacity, host government demands, differences in customer tastes and preferences, differences in distribution channels. There are 4 basic strategies to compete in international environment: global standardization, localization, transnational, and international. The appropriateness of every strategy depends on the pressures of cost reduction and local responsiveness in the industry. 4 basic strategies. The globalization strategy focuses on increasing profitability and product growth by reaping the cost reductions that come from the economies of scale, learning effects, and location economies. The strategic goal is to pursue a low-cost strategy on a global scale. The global standardization strategy makes sense when there are strong pressures for cost reductions. Demands for local responsiveness are minimal. The localization strategy focuses on increasing profitability by customizing the firm's goods and services so that they provide a good match that tastes and preferences different national markets. Localization strategy makes sense when there are substantial differences across nations with regard to consumer taste and preferences where cost pressure is not too intense. The transnational strategy tries to simultaneously achieve low cost through location, foster a multi-directional flow of skills between different subsidies of firms, national networks of operation. Transactional strategy makes sense when cost pressures are intense, pressures for local responsiveness are intense. The international strategy involves taking products first produced for the domestic market and then selling them internationally with only minimal local customization. The international strategy makes sense when there's low pressures for local responsiveness. Cost from performance system. Which strategy tries to simultaneously achieve low costs through location economies? And differentiate product offerings across uh, geographic markets to account for local differences. What do you think? Which strategy tries to simultaneously achieve the low costs through location economies of scale, and learning effects, and then differentiate product offering across graphic markets to account for local differences? Is it internationalization, localization, global standardization, or transnational? The evolution of strategy. The international strategy is not viable in the long term. To survive, firms need to shift to a global standardization strategy or a transnational strategy in advance of competitors. Similarly, localization may give a firm a competitive edge, but the firm is simultaneously facing aggressive competitors. The company will also have to reduce the cost structures, and the only way to do that may be to shift toward a transactional strategy. Changes in strategy over time. Global standardization strategy from the international strategy, transnational strategy, a localization strategy. Which strategy makes sense when pressures are high for the local responsiveness but low for cost reductions? A global standardization strategy, international strategy, transnational strategy, and localization strategy. Strategy of international business. So here's an example, like Walmart, its opening case, moved to other countries for 3 reasons. The growth opportunities at home are becoming constrained. It thought could bring to create value by transferring business model to foreign markets. It wished to preempt the other retailers that were also starting to expand globally. Walmart initially treated foreign markets much like the US did. Discover not a direct approach. To succeed abroad, Walmart had to customize its offerings to local conditions, where keeping it core strategies and operations at the same in market. Going global has yielded additional benefits as well, enhancing bargaining power with suppliers, the ability to transfer valuable ideas to one country to another. Strategy must be defined as actions that managers must take to attain their goals of the firm. For most firms, the permanent goal is to maximize the value of the firm to the owners. Profitability can be defined as the rate of return which the firm makes its invested capital, which is calculated by dividing the net profits of the firm by the total invested capital. Profit growth is measured by the percentage of increase in the net profits over time. We have enterprise valuation, profitability. We have product growth, reduce costs, add value and raise prices, sell more existing markets, enter new markets. Value creation. The way to increase the profitability of a firm is to create more value. The amount of value a firm creates is measured by the difference between the cost of production and the value that consumers perceive of the products. Michael Porter states that there's two basic strategies for creating value and attaining a competitive advantage in the industry. Low-cost strategy suggests that the firm has high profits when it creates more value for the customers and does not at a lower cost. Differentiation strategy focuses primarily on increasing the attractiveness of the product. We have the value product of average consumer. We have product price of unit, cost of production unit. We have customer surplus per unit, profit per unit sold, and value created per unit. Strategic positioning. It's important for the firm to be explicit about the choice of strategic emphasis with regard to value creation. Management must just decide that the company wants to be positioned with regard to the value and the cost. A central tenet of the basic strategy paradigm is to maximize its profitability. A firm must do three things: pick a position in the efficiency frontier that's viable to the sense that there is enough demand to support the choice, configure international operations so that they can support the position, make sure the firm has the right organization structure in place to execute that strategy. Strategic choice in the international hotel industry. We have Four Seasons, Starwood, the Efficiency Frontier, and Marriott. We saw that in the last one. Any firm is composed of a series of distinct value creating activities. Primary activities: research, development, production, marketing, sales, service, support activities, material management or logistics, human resource, information systems, company infrastructure. Expanding globally allows the firms to increase their profitability, the rate of product growth in ways not available to purely domestic enterprises. Firms that operate internationally are able to expand the market to their domestic products, realize locations economies by dispersing individual value creation activities, realize greater cost economies, earn a greater return by leveraging any valuable skills developed in foreign operations. Value chain, we have support activities, information systems, company infrastructure, logistics, human resource, R&D, production, marketing, sales, consumer. Any company that can increase the growth rate by taking goods or services developed at home and selling them internationally, returning such strategy are likely to be greater if indigenous competition in nations company enters a lack of comparable products. Success of multinational companies also rests on the core of competencies that underline the development, production, and marketing of goods and services. Core competencies are skills within a firm competitors cannot easily match or intimidate. Core competencies are the bedrock of the firm's competitive advantage and are able to reduce the cost of value creation. Before we go on any further, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little break. Let's take a 10-minute break. Let me do 10-minute timer. 10-minute timer's on. Okay. right, back to the PowerPoint. The location economies are economies that arise from performing a value creation activity. The optimal location for the activity can have one of two effects. It can lower the cost of value creation and help the firm to achieve a low cost position, and or it can enable the firm to differentiate its product offering from those of the competitors. One result of this kind of thinking is the creation of a global web of value creation activities with different stages of the value being dispersed among those locations around the globe where perceived value is maximized, where the cost of value is created is minimized. The experience curve refers to systematic reductions in the production costs that have been observed to occur over the life of the product. There are two explanations that affect. Doing economies of scale refer to the reductions of the cost achieved by producing a large volume of the product. The strategic significance of experience curve is clear. Moving down the experience curve allows a firm to reduce its cost of creating value, increasing product profitability. Leveraging subsidiary skills. Leveraging the skills created within the subsidies and applying them to other operations within the firm's global network may create value. Learning how to leverage the skills subsidies presents a challenge for managers of multinational organizations. They must have the humility to recognize that valuable skills leading to competitiveness arise anywhere within the firm's global network. They must establish an incentive system that encourages local employees to acquire new skills. They must have a process of identifying when valuable new skills have been created in the subsidy. They need to act as facilitators, helping transfer valuable skills within the firm. Firms that compete in the global marketplace typically face two types of competitive pressure: pressures for cost reductions and pressures to be locally responsive. Pressures for cost reductions. International businesses often face pressures for cost reductions because of the competitive global market. Pressures for cost reduction can be particularly intense in industries producing commodity-type products. Universal needs exist when the tastes and preferences of consumers in different nations are similar to not identical. Pressures of cost reduction are also intense in industries where major competitors are based on the low-cost locations, where there's persistence, excess capacity, where consumers are powerful and face low switching costs. Differences in consumer taste and preferences. North American families like pickup trucks, while Europe they are viewed as utility value in firms. Differences in infrastructures and traditional practices. Consumers' electrical system in North America is based on the 110 volts. In Europe, the 240 volts. Differences in distribution channels. Germany has few retailers dominating the food market, while in Italy it's fragmented. Host government demands. Healthcare systems difference between countries require pharmaceutical firms to change operating procedures. Choosing a strategy. High pressures for cost reduction, low. We have global standardization strategy, multinational strategy, international strategy, and localization strategy. The Achilles heel of the international strategy is over time, competitors eventually emerge. An international strategy may not be viable in long term, so the need to shift toward a global standardization strategy or transnational strategy in advance of competitors. As competition intensifies, the international localization strategies tend to become less viable. Managers need to orient their companies toward either a global standardization strategy or a multinational strategy. Evolution strategy. Organizational of international business, organizational architecture, organizational structure, control systems, incentives, processes, organizational culture, synthesis, strategy, and architecture, organizational change. Create value by transferring valuable core competencies to foreign markets that indigenous competitors lack. Centralization product. development functions at home, establish manufacturing, market functions in a local country, but head offices exercise tight control over it, limit customization of product offering, and market strategy. And strategy effective, it's firm, faces weak pressures for local response and cost productions. Main aim is maximum local responsiveness, customized product offering, market strategy including production R&D according to national conditions, generally enabled to realize value from experience curve, effects and location economies, process high cost structure. Focuses on achieving low cost strategy by reaping cost reductions that come from experience, curve effects, and location economies. Production, marketing, R&D, concentrated in a few favorable functions. Market standardized product to keep costs low. Effective where strong pressures for cost reductions and low demand for local responsiveness exist. Semiconductor industry. To meet competition, firms aim to reduce costs, transfer core competencies while paying attention to pressures for local responsiveness. Global learning, valuable skills can help in any of the firm's worldwide operations. Transfer of knowledge from foreign subsidy to home country to other form subsidies. Transnational strategy, a difficult task due to contradictory demands placed in the organization caterpillar. There are ethics of concern in the international business. We're going to talk about that next here. Ethics refers to accepted principles of right and wrong that govern and conduct of a person. The members of a profession or the actions of organization, business ethics are accepted principles of right and wrong government, the conduct of business people. Ethical strategy is a strategy of course of action that does not violate any accepted principles. The most common ethical issues in business involve employment practices, human rights, environmental regulations, corporation, moral obligations of multinational companies. If work conditions in a host nation are clearly inferior to those of multinational home nation, should companies apply home country standards, host country standards, something between? In developed countries, basic human rights as freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of movement are taken for granted. In other countries, these rights may not exist. Ethical issues arise when the environmental regulations in host nations are far inferior to those of the home nation. Environmental questions take an added importance because some parts of environment are a public good and no one owes, but one can dispose. A tragedy of commons occurs when a resource held in common by all but owned by no one is overused by individuals, resulting in degradation. U.S. foreign corrupt practices outline the practice of paying bribes to foreign government officials in order to gain business. The Convention on Combating Bribery for Foreign Public Officials in International Business Transactions, adopted by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, obliges member states to make the bribery of foreign public officials a criminal offense. Some economists believe that the country where pre-existing political structures distort or limit the workings of a market mechanism, corruption in the form of black marketing, smuggling, or side payments to government bureaucracies to speed up approval for business investment and actually enhance welfare. Other economists have argued that corruption reduces and returns the business investment and leads to low economic growth. Social responsibility refers to the idea that business people should take social consequences of economic action into account when making business decisions, and that there should be a resumption of favor of decisions of both economic and good consequences. Social responsibility can be supported by the stake simply because it's the right way for business to behave. Ethical dilemmas are situations in which none are available alternatives seem ethically acceptable. The ethical obligations of the multinational corporation toward employment conditions, human rights, corruption, environmental pollution, and the use of the powers is not always clear cut. There's no clear cut reason why managers behave unethically. The causes of unethical behavior are complex and reflect personal ethics, decision making processes, leadership, unrealistic performance expectations, organizational culture. Deterrence of ethical behavior, personal ethics. We have organization culture, ethical behaviors, unrealistic performance goals, decision making processes, and leadership. Personal ethics. The generally accepted principles of right and wrong, government conduct of individuals, influence business ethics. Fair rates face pressure to violate their personal ethics because they're not a way of ordinary social context and supporting culture. They are psychologically and geographically distinct from the parent company. People may behave unethically because they rely on economic analysis when making decisions and fail to ask relevant questions like, is a decision or action relevant? Organization culture refers to the values and norms that are shared among employees of an organization. In firms, the organization culture does not emphasize business culture, unethical behavior may exist. Leadership helps establish the culture of organization and sets the example for others to follow. When leaders act unethically, subordinates may act unethically too. There are several different approaches to business ethics. Some approaches deny the value of business ethics or apply concept in an unsatisfactory way. Others are favored by moral philosophers and basis for current models of ethical behavior. We have strawman. Strawman approaches offer an appropriate guidelines for ethical decisions making a multinational enterprise. There are four common strawman approaches. The Fetterman Doctrine suggests the only social responsibility of business to create profits, so long as company stays within rules of law. Cultural Revolution argues that ethics are culturally determined and that firms should adopt the ethics of cultures which they operate. Or in other words, in Rome, do Romans do. The righteous moralist approach claims a multinational home country standard of ethics should be followed by the foreign countries. A native moralist asserts that the manager of multinational sees that firms and other nations are not following ethical norms in the host nation and that the manager should either. Unitarian approaches, ethics holds that the moral worth of actions or practices determined by their consequences. Actions are desirable only if they lead to the best possible balance of good consequences over bad consequences. Problems of Unitarianism include measuring benefits, costs, and risk of action. The fact approach fails to consider justice. Kantian ethics is based on philosophy of Immanuel Kant, who argues that people should be treated as ends and never purely as means of the ends of others. Right theories recognize that human beings have fundamental rights and privileges which transcend the national boundaries and cultures. Right theories establish minimum level of morality acceptable behavior. Moral theorists argue that fundamental human rights is the basis of moral compass that managers should navigate when making decisions that have ethical component. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights specifies that basic principles that should always be adhered to the irresponsible of a culture in which one's doing business. Declarations promoted by the idea that some fundamental rights should transcend national borders and cultures. Pause for a second. Justice theories focus on attainment of just distribution of economic goods and services. A just distribution is one that's considered fair and equitable. One theory of justice is particularly important was proposed by John Rawls, who argued that all economic goods and services should be distributed equal, except when unequal distribution would work in everyone's advantage. According to Rawls, impartiality is guaranteed by the veil of ignorance. Everyone's imagined to be ignorant of all his or her particular characteristics. When these conditions exist, each person is permitted a maximum amount of basic liberty compatible with the similar liberty for others. Once equal basic liberty is assured, inequality of basic goods, social goods are allowed only if they benefit everyone. To assure ethical issues are considered in business decisions, Firms should favor hiring and promoting people with well-grounded sense of personal ethics, build an organizational culture that places high value on ethical behavior, make sure that leaders within the business not only articulate the rhetoric of ethical behavior, but they act in a manner that's consistent with that of rhetoric. Put decision-making process in place that require people to consider the ethical dimension of business decisions and develop more courage. Businesses should strive to identify and hire people with a strong sense of personal ethics. Companies should refrain from promoting individuals who have acted unethically. Prospective employees should find out much as they could about ethical climate in the organization prior to taking position. Organization culture and leadership. To foster ethical behavior, businesses need to build an organization culture where business explicitly articulates values and places strong emphasis on ethical behavior, perhaps using code of ethics, a formal statement of ethical priorities that a business adheres to. Leaders in the business give life and meaning to the code of ethics by repeatedly emphasizing its importance and then acting them. The business puts a place on the system of incentives and rewards that recognize people who engage in ethical behavior and sanction those who do not. Decision-making process. Managers can use a 5-step process to think about ethical problems. Step 1. Manager identifies stakeholders, individuals or groups who have an interest, stake, or claim in the actions and overall performance of a company. A decision would affect in many ways. International stakeholders, people who work with or who own a business, such as employees, board of directors, and stockholders. External stakeholders, individuals and groups who have some claim on the firm, such as customers, suppliers, and unions. Step 2. Managers determine whether the proposed decision would violate the fundamental rights of stakeholders. To ensure ethical behavior in a business, a number of firms now have ethics officers. They ensure that all employees are trained in ethics. Ethics considered in decision-making process, and the company's code of conduct is followed. Moral courage enables managers to walk away from a decision that's profitable but ethical. It gives employee the strength to say no to a superior who instructs her to pursue actions that are unethical. Gives employees the integrity to go to public and the media and blow a whistle on persistent unethical behavior in the company. Does not easily, and employees have lost their jobs when acting in the courage. Lastly, Anna Rogers did some research on leadership, reviewing leadership, contrast leadership and management, summarize the conclusions and traits theories of the leadership, identify central tenets, main limitations of behavior theories, access contingency theories of leadership at the level of support, define authentic leadership, demonstrate the role mentoring plays in the understanding of leadership, address challenges of effectiveness of leadership. Leader versus management. A leader inspires, motivates, and encourages people to achieve visionary goals. A manager deals with operations of business. A manager oversees current process well, must achieve balance, thinks execution, comfortable with control. Problems are just that. We need resolution ASAP. Procedure is king. Procedures king instructs it to the technique and process. Interpersonal remote wants to create the future, needs to make change, thinks ideas, welcome risk, sees problems as opportunities of patient. Substance triumphs the king, your best college professor in high emotional intelligence. Trait theories of leadership. Theories that consider personal qualities and characteristics that differentiate leaders from non-leaders. Intelligence and action-oriented judgment, eagerness to accept responsibility, task competencies, understanding their followers and the needs, people skills, need for achievement, capacity to motivate people, courage and resolution, perseverance, trustworthiness, adaptability, and flexibility. Traits associated with great leadership: intelligence, people skills, decisiveness, creativity, competencies, trustworthiness. Behavioral theories: initiating structure, intent to which a leader is likely to define structure, his or her role, and employs the search for goal attainment, consideration, extent to which the person's job. Relationships are characterized by mutual trust, respect for employee ideas, regard for their feelings. Employee-oriented leader emphasizes an interpersonal relationship by taking personal interest in employees' needs and accepting individual differences among them. Production-oriented leader emphasizes technical or task aspects of a job, focusing on accomplishing the group's tasks. Contingency theory and the Feller model: leadership style, situation variables, relationship between styles and situation. Fielder model possesses that effective group performance depends on the proper match between leader style and the degree to which the situation gives leader control. Identify leadership style, defining the situation, matching leader situations, and evaluation. Charismatic and transformational leadership. Charismatic leadership, vision and articulation, personal risk, sensitivity to follower needs, unconventional behavior. Transformational leadership, contingent award, management by execution, active and passive, laissez-faire, and inspirational motivation. Authentic leadership, authentic leader, heart, purpose, values, self-discipline, and relationship. Authentic leadership, know who they are or what they believe and value, act on those values and beliefs openly and candidly, share information, encourage open communication, ethical of people as seen as by others, stick to their ideals and beliefs. Mentoring, career function, lobbying to get challenging assignments, coaching, developing skills, providing exposure and networking, protecting risk and reputation, sponsoring a nomination for career advancement, acting as sounding board for ideas. Psychosocial functions could be counseling to improve, promote self-confidence, sharing personal experiences, providing friendship and acceptance, acting as a role model and resources. We have mentoring here, training, motivation, advance, success, direction, coaching, support, and goal. Role of a mentor: he showed us how to do the mirror, he grilled us anyways, he pulled us back when we needed, and really showed us opportunity. Challenges to leadership: competency, if it ain't broke, attitude or over control, inability to delegate, maybe lack of problem solutions, assume collaboration, maybe don't assume groups working together. Okay. All right, so we're done for today. Don't forget to do your summary for today, and I'll see everybody next week. Oh, and happy Easter, everybody. Remember, he is risen. Bye.